upon it and make even more advanced ones. So with that, let's start today's session. And let me share my screen. All right, so this is where we are. That's where we left last time. We're kind of writing some classes on inheritance. We'll take a pause from that because I think writing a game is it's kind of culmination of everything that we've learned so far. Not everything, but most of it. So let's do that. Uh, and today's objective is to make a very simple game. I hope you can see my screen. It's called the Brick Breaker. We all have played it or something similar kind somewhere in our life. So it's very simple in the way that the idea being to get the principles of how to write a Java game rather than focusing much on the aesthetics of it. But feel free to build upon it and make really good games. So it's very simple. There's a brick wall with a bunch of bricks in it. It's precisely 7 by 3 grid, a 3 by 7 grid, essentially 21 bricks in it. And every time the ball hits a brick, it breaks it, and you get 5 points. So you can use the arrow keys, right and left, to move the slider, and then the ball kind of goes in place through the game. And you kind of adjust the slider underneath it so that ball can hit it. And then if you miss it, the game is over. It gives you the score, and then if you hit enter, the game will start all over, right? Once all the bricks are gone, the game terminates in that case as well. So there are two ways in which the game can terminate. Either you break all the bricks, or the ball falls off the screen. Right? Very simple game here, and we'll see how easy it is to write a game like such and then build upon it. All right, so let's get going on it. And any questions before we start?
No.
All right, looks very simple. We need to draw a window, and in the window we have to draw a brick wall, and then the ball moves around. The ball changes direction every time it hits a solid object, which is a slider, or the walls of the game, which is right, left, top walls, or the brick itself. And then every time it hits a solid object, the ball changes direction. So how does it change direction? It just flips its coordinates. So whatever direction it is going in after a collision with a rigid body, it just changes its direction. So let's see how we can capture all that in a Java program. Right? So let's create a package in our code, and we'll call it. Let's create a package, and let's call it the brick breaker. Now in the package we'll create a. So we'll gradually build the game. Now we don't have any game, but we're gradually going to build it up. So the first class we create is let's call it the brick breaker game. Right? And what does it do? It has a method to start a game, like we have been having all this while, is a public static void method, and it is to start game. And there it is. Now there are a few things to the game. So in Java, the way you draw a window is using something called a JFrame. We'll say JFrame equal to a new JFrame. So create a new window, right? And then we say how what should be the size of this game window. It should be frame dot set bounds. So in when Java draws anything on your screen, so the top left corner is the coordinate 0, 0. So it is actually, you can imagine the screen being a XY coordinate system, wherein the upper corner, left corner is at 0, 0 index or coordinate essentially. So we are saying let my window be at 10 comma 10, and let's start drawing from there. How wide should it be? Let's make so our game is wider than, it is more. Let me give a visual context to it. So it's not a perfect square. It's kind of a rectangle wherein it's wider than how high it is. So we'll say let the width be 700 pixel and the height be 600 pixel. So what are these numbers? These are pixels. Pixel is a measurement unit of in computer displays. Right? So when we say my phone is x pixels, x by x pixels, we kind of talk about every inch of the screen, how many pixels are there. So these numbers represent these individual pixels. Now, our game has a title here called Brick Breaker. So let's put that title. We'll say frame dot set title. We'll call it Brick. Now, here, there's an option of resizing it, like expanding this window is disabled. So let's say in our IntelliJ, there's an option to kind of expand your window full screen or kind of change the size. You can change all that. But in our game, for the sake of simplicity, we'll disable it. But feel free to find ways on how to enable that. Essentially, you'll have to scale everything up based on what is the new size of your window. So for now, we'll say set resizable as false. So the user of the game should not be able to move resize the window. Now, should the frame be visible? Yeah, let's make it visible to people so we can see it on the screen. So now this will make the screen show up. Now, so what do we do?
I'm sorry, can you zoom in a little bit on the code?
Is that better?
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. So now we want to tell the computer or Java what to do when someone closes the game. So they click on the cross button, what do we do? So we say frame dot set default close operation. So what to do when someone closes the window, and we say exit unclose. So when someone closes the game, just terminate the program is what it's saying. Right? We have these numbers based on which we'll do some of our calculations on where the ball should be, where should be the slider, and all of those things, where the brick is. So we'll use these numbers again and again. So for that purposes, instead of just writing those numbers there, let's save them in a variable so that we can access them. So we'll say public static, and these are constant numbers. So we can just say they can be public static final because they're not going to change. We'll say frame x coordinate is at 10, public static final integer. Frame y coordinate is at 10. Similarly, you can copy paste this one. Static final integer frame width. How wide is the game? 700 pixels, right? And similarly, public static final int.
Wait, sorry, is this anywhere? Have we done this before? No, right?
No.
Wait, so we're supposed to write this out, right? Or no?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh well. Okay.
I'll wait.
No, I'm writing it out too. I was just wondering because I'm having errors under like JFrame and stuff.
Because you might not have that import.
No, I have that imported too.
What does it say?
Um, let's see. It says cannot resolve symbol.
Do you have it? Do you
But
want to share your screen?
I think I fixed it. I don't know. I just typed it again.
Um,
Okay.
what does
Yeah.
that last line, like frame.set default close operation do?
So, okay. Let's see what it. Uh, if you don't have that, what happens? So as we have written this much, let's run and see if this works. Oh well, it will not work. Give me 1 second. Why will it not work? Is because we didn't call this method. So we'll say, were you able to fix the problem or?
Yeah, that fixed. You're asking me, right? Yeah, that mine is good now.
Okay. So we'll say start the game. Okay, fine. Once we start the game now, we should see the game window pop up, which is like such. It's just an empty window. It starts whenever it shows up. It started at 10 by 10 pixel, which is in this left corner, and then this is 700 pixel wide, 600 pixel high. Now what happens is if we don't have the default close operation and you try to close your game, uh, actually it keeps running in the background. Well, that's not the one. That's the second one. But at least you can see that in your processes, wherever the Java process is, you'll see that your game is still running. Even in IntelliJ, you can see that stop is activated because somewhere the program is still running. It let you made the window disappear, but then Java program is still running. So that's why you say that, which what it does is it terminates the Java program. So when now we have changed that, let's stop our program and let's run this again. So now this is the same window we have, and see how this sign here, the stop is activated in my IntelliJ. Once I close this, it goes away. So what this does is it says exit the program when the user clicks on the close button. If you don't, then the program will actually keep running in the background. All right. So now as we have variables for these numbers, let's instead use the variables. But if we want to change the dimension of our game, we just need to change the variables and the whole game will just change by itself. Else, wherever we use these numbers, we'll have to go and update the numbers, which is a very bad idea and a nightmare.
Mine has an error under every public static for some reason.
Is it outside of the method or is it inside the method?
Wait, it's inside of start game. Is it not supposed to be?
It should be inside the class,
Okay, yeah, that's why.
right? You have it there?
Yeah, I just did that. I had it in start
Okay,
game.
got it. Yeah, no, no. It should be outside. All right. So now, at least we know that this can draw the window. The next step is we need to make the background color dark, right? And then we'll have this border to it to look a little fancy. So let's do that part. For that, we'll create another class. We'll call it the gameplay. Say Java class. We'll say gameplay. This is where the whole logic of how the game is going to work is going to be put. Now, uh, in the game, we need to handle few things. One is the key presses, right? We need to handle that. Secondly, is when the key is pressed, we need to move those elements. Like when the ball hits something, it has to move in a certain direction. So we need to handle all of that. So for that, in this gameplay class, we'll say this class extends from jpanel. It implements key listener, comma, action listener. So it implements two interfaces, key listener and action listener. So the key listener will give us the keys that the user has pressed, and the action listener will kind of do the drawing and all that other stuff. So there's an underline, there's a red lining under the class definition, and that is because as we are implementing interfaces, we need to implement the methods that the interfaces have. So we'll say implement these methods, and there it is. So we say action performed that comes from action listener, and the key presses that come from the key listener. We say, okay, we'll implement it. We'll handle those situations. Now you observe that gameplay is of type JPanel, right? Now what we're going to tell our game is whatever is in the frame um, should be controlled by the gameplay. So for that, we say frame dot add the controller for the game. So we'll say new gameplay. There it is. So now when the game is running, any keys you press will be actually calling these one of these methods. So we have stitched that part together. Now let's okay. Let's implement a method. Let's call it public void paint. And what does Java paint using? It's a graphic object. We'll say graphics. Don't use graphics 2D. Use just the graphics here. And we'll call it G for the simplicity because we'll be using that again and again. So this is where all the drawing of elements will happen. Whatever you see on the screen happens from this method. Before we do that, let's look at the game again. So when the game starts, it is all stationary. Our score is 0. The ball is not moving, slider is not moving. So how do we do that? How do we make sure that the game doesn't start by itself? It waits for the user to press a key. So we do it using few ways. So for that, we'll keep a track of whether the game is being running or not using a flag. So let's call it private boolean play flag. Right? This keeps track of if the game is running. So that's one. The other one is score. Private. What kind of variable the score should be? It should be integer type because we are not score increments in integer counts. Right. The next is we need a timer. So why do we need a timer? It's because we need to see when the game starts. And then this slider moves in whatever direction. We want this slider to move at a certain speed, not like at a god speed, right? Else we'll not be able to control it. If it is too, computers can run pretty fast, so we want to run it at human speed. So for that we need a timer which can keep track of at what speed things are running on the screen. So we'll say timer, right? And then
Can you scroll down a bit?
yes,
I didn't get to write everything down.
these ones.
The like public void action perform things. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. One way to do that, at least in IntelliJ, is like click on an empty place and then right click, and there you can say generate, and then there's like override methods. So it can give you the list of things that you can override.
Okay.
Yeah, so you don't have to, so you can like literally not have that. So that two things that will happen, your class will have an underline which will say, you don't implement those methods. So you can click on implement methods and just hit OK. It just generates it for you.
Okay. That's cool.
Wait, so
Yeah.
I tried the generate override methods and it just gave me a public gameplay layout manager layout. I don't know what that is.
Do you have these implements and extents?
Yeah, I had an error in that from the beginning actually, for some reason.
Okay. Do you want to share the screen?
Yeah. Yeah, so I just have, it says class gameplay must be either declared abstract or implement abstract method, key type, key event, and key listener.
So there's this implement methods, right? Click on that and hit OK.
Oh, what the? Okay, so that worked, I guess.
Yep.
And then, yeah, that just fixed everything.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. Right. So coming back to our program. So essentially, we need that timer to how often should we go and update the UI, and that will give an illusion of things moving. So we'll say this is a timer to keep track of time. Similarly, we'll need something to give a delay. So there's a certain speed at which things move on here. Now, what should be that speed? So in reference to how often the timer expires, we kind of have to give it a timer has to have a time for it to expire. So that's we'll call it delay. So expire the timer after this delay. Okay?
Parashar is still presenting.
Oh, I can stop. Yeah, I'll stop really quick. I stopped presenting. I think it should work now.
Awesome. All right. So now, is that better? All right. So now we have our delay, which is going to tell us how often the timer expires. So with that, let's have this have a constructor for this class now. So we'll say public. There's no return type for the constructor, so it's just going to be the class name, which is gameplay, and it takes no parameters. Right? What does the constructor do? Now remember, there's this key listener, right? So similarly to that, in JPanel there is a you need to tell the JPanel that who should, if the user, when the window is up and running, when the game is running like such, and the user presses keys, which class is going to handle it? So we'll say we are going to handle it because we implement the key listener. So we say add key listener, and this is a class that is going to handle it, right? How do we know that we are going to handle it? Because if you look at the key listener parameter, it it takes a key listener type object, right? Now we implement the key listener type, so we are so this class matches the type, and that's why it'll just work fine. Now we say when the game starts, uh, set to focus, which means um, bring the game in front to the user. Okay, start the game and bring it up front, and then we'll say that. It's not it's enabled. Right. So we do that, and then we have this paint method. So let's save it, run it, and see what happens. At least no errors, but nothing much has happened. We have been just writing the boilerplate code. So now we are going to write something in the paint, which is what to do when the game starts. So we'll first set the background. So we'll say g dot set color. Our graphics is of color. Our background is black. We'll say color dot black, right? And then so we have a black color. So imagine G or the graphics G as a pen, a colored pen, wherein you can change colors. And then now you have set the color to be black. And what area of the screen you want to paint black. So we're going to say G dot fill rectangle. Our game is a rectangle. So we're going to fill starting from 1 comma 1 XY coordinate. And how much do we want to paint? We need to paint the whole screen. So for that, we're going to see how we are leaving our J frame starts at well. So we're saying starting 1 1 within the frame. So we're not starting at 0 0. We're starting at 1 1. Is because we are leaving that 1 pixel to put a margin there, to put a border. Right? So that's a starting index and how wide and how high. So for that, we'll declare a variable. We'll say public static int. It can be final too because it's not going to change. Integer. We'll call it margin. We'll say our game has a margin of 2 pixels, and public static final integer. How wide this region is. We'll say width is equal to. We'll take our original width, which was 700 pixel, and from there we subtract the margin. Right. So whatever that is going to be is where we are going to play the game. Similarly, we'll say public static final integer height is equal to whatever the height is of the whole window. We take that height, and from there we leave some margin around it. This is our height and width. So we have a black color pen, and we're going to paint starting at 1 comma 1 index the entire width and the entire height. And so we'll say width and height. And once that is done, we'll do g dot dispose. So we'll come to why do we do g dot dispose, but before we get there, let's run the game and see, do we have a black background or not? So we have a completely black background, and you can see that there is thin line all around, which is white in color, and that is because we left that 2 pixel margin all around. All right. So we have at least got this part working. Now, so we have done the border.
Where is your run line?
So I'm running it from my main. In the main, I have a brick breaker game dot start game, and then
And
that this calls this method.
so can I see the main again?
Yes.
Yeah, mine hasn't. Yeah, mine has an error for some reason.
Do you have the import? The very top of that line.
Yeah. In the gameplay? Oh, in that one? No, I don't have it. Okay.
In the
I don't
main.
have it in the hello string.
Oh yeah, wherever your main is, you should have that import at the
Yeah.
very top.
Import brickbreaker dot.
So essentially, what you can do is, let's say if you don't have that, when you use a brick breaker, you can just in IntelliJ, you can start typing BRICK. You see the brick breaker in the IntelliSense, and then hit enter. Automatically start doing. That automatically
Yeah.
does that.
For some reason, wait. I don't know why it's not working.
You want to share your screen?
Yeah.
There's some noise in the background.
Oh, okay. So I have it. Am I sharing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it has an error with this for some reason.
Um, so where is the error? What does it say? Start game. Go to your class again. Okay, delete the start game from. Go to your main again. Delete the start game and the brackets as well. Yeah. And just write brick breaker.
You just show the time option.
Yeah. Hit enter. Dot. Delete the semicolon. And then press control space. Okay, you're actually not in main. You're outside of the main.
Maybe I
So
deleted.
you have commented out the main method. Okay. So this is your main, then yeah, you can do that.
Then
Hit enter. Oh, no. So, okay, delete that whole line and just write the line number 8. Delete that. Same line number 3 as well. Delete everything. Just have the empty main body. Yeah. And now inside the body, just write brick, and then it will give you an option with upper B. Hit enter. Yes, so it got your import line at line number 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now to start game. Hit enter. That's it,
Okay.
right? Okay. So see, run the program and see if that works. But then you have two mains, right? So make sure that you're hitting the green button by the right main method. All right. So we're back. So we just created a border
Yeah, it
wherein
worked. It just worked.
it worked, right?
But the screen is fully black.
It's fully, yeah, it's kind of fully
It just
black. At the very edge, you should see like fine white line.
yeah, I see that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, that
Then
works.
so far so good.
Hmm.
Perfect. So let's come back to the game. Now we set the background color to black, and we still have the pen, the colorful pen that we have. So I'm going to use that and draw a border around the game. So what our intention is to have this yellow border all around, except for at the bottom, right? So let's do that. How do we draw the border? Is we're going to say our colorful pen G dot set color to yellow, this color dot yellow, and so now we just going to say G dot fill rectangle. Um, See how we have started drawing the background at 1 comma 1, which means 0 comma 0. Starting at that coordinate, there's nothing, it's just white color. So we're going to say start at 0 comma 0, and we'll first draw the left border. So if you look at the game, here, this is what we're going to draw. So we are saying starting at 0 comma 0 and have that some few pixels wide, and then just draw a yellow rectangle. So this is not a line, it's a rectangle, a very narrow rectangle. So we're saying 0 comma 0 and draw a rectangle which is uh, 2 pixels wide, but how high? So whatever the height of our screen is, that high. So this will draw the left border. Similarly, when we do now we will draw the top border, which is at the top. So if you look at the game, where does it start? It starts at 0 comma 0, and then how far does it go? It goes all the way to the width of the game, right? So we say 0 comma 0 width of the game, and how high should it be? 2 pixels high. So let's do fill rectangle. Start at 0 comma 0. How wide should it be? It should be width of the screen wide, and how high should it be? It should be 2 pixels high. So we're going to say this is our top border. Similarly, how should be the right border be? Starting at where? Starting at, so if this is 0 comma 0, then that should be somewhere. So this is width of the game, starting there. Kind of go all the way height of the screen. So we say G dot fill rectangle width, wherever the width ends there, comma 0, because it's a very top, and how wide should it be? 2 pixels wide, and how high should it be? uh, should be This is our right border. Okay. You don't need a border at the bottom, is because the ball needs to fall off. So let's see if this got us going somewhere. So now you can see we have border all around, yellow border, right? So we're kind of making some progress. But the point here is, see how easy it is to draw things on screen through a program here, and how the method names are so intuitive. That this object just literally you're asking it to fill a rectangle or anything. You don't have to know how internally that's done. How does it know where on the screen the window is, and what to go and do there? It is all hidden from us, and that's how a class should be. It should hide the details use it, right? Now, next thing that we are going to implement is to show a score. You see our score is 0 here. So we need to show that on the screen. So we'll say show score. How do we show the score? So our score color is white. So we'll first of all set the color of our pen to white again. Right? Well, we're setting it for the first time, so just white color. We can put any color. We'll just go with white for now. Now, as this is text, it should have a font, right? So we'll say set font. What should we? So if you look at the object, it takes an object of type font. So set font takes an object of type font. So we'll say okay, new font, and what the font should be. Let's use something called as serif, and our styling should be bold. Show the score in bold, and then what should be the font size? 25 pixels, just to be moderate. And where should now we have this font? Where should we draw this from font? So we say we go and string. So using that font, let's let's print the 0 as an example. At what location? So we'll just pick up a random location which is towards the left of, sorry, right of the screen. Let's say 590 by 30. Now we should have our score being displayed if we run our program. There it is. It shows 0 right there at the very top, right? But that 0 is coming because we have hard-coded the 0 in the string. So let's have a variable where we can keep track of what the score is. So we'll say score is something very internal to the game, so we call it private. Private. Should it be final? It should not be final. It can be static, but as it is going to change, it should not be final. Static score. We already had score, so we kind of thought it early on, and here we'll say show the score. Then there's a problem here because drawString expects a string, but we are passing an integer, so it's not letting us do that. So there's a very simple way to do that. Either we can do that, which is concatenate a number with a string, and that makes it a string. That's one easy way to do. Or you can create a new string from an integer. So now whatever value we have in the score, it is going to show there, right? So we got the score covered. Now what you're missing is everything else, which is we are missing the slider here, we're missing the ball, we're missing those bricks. So let's quickly do that one after the other. Now the ball in the game moves very independent of the slider. Slider moves independently, ball moves independently. So let's create a class which handles the ball. Let's create a class that handles the slider. So we don't have to worry about it in this one game. So for that, let's create a class called, we'll just call it ball. Lack of imagination here. So what all does the ball have? So we'll say public integer. There's a So where at any given point in time, the ball is somewhere on the screen, which can be represented by the coordinates x and y. So you can imagine this as a x coordinate, and that's the y coordinate. And where is this ball located at? It is located at that x and that y. Right? So a ball has a coordinate. Give me one moment. Something is not right about the mouse pointer that I'm using. All right, we're back in the business. So okay, so so ball has ball position. You can just say ball POS. Write the whole word position, but you can x. So what is its x position? I will say public integer ball position y. So this is going to tell us where exactly the ball is on the screen. Right, so this is current position of the ball. Similarly, now the ball moves in different directions, right? So the ball is going to um, move in what direction? Somewhere. Either it's going to go straight up or come down. So we need to keep track of what direction the ball is moving in. Right? So for that, we'll say public integer ball direction x, and then public integer ball direction y. So the ball is going in this xy direction is what we're going to say. So this is current direction of the ball, right? Now, one critical factor here is how big is the ball. Now you can imagine that this ball is, though it is a circle, but it can be enclosed inside a rectangle, right? We can approximate the size of that ball using a rectangle essentially, but drawn as a circle. And we'll see the advantage of doing that real quick. So for now, we'll say public integer ball width would have been in a rectangle. How wide should that be? And we'll say public integer ball height. We have these variables, but they don't have a value to it. So to add a value, let's write a method. We'll call it public void initialize. The only thing it does is it gives a starting value to these numbers. So we'll say when our game starts, ball position x, let the ball be at pixel 120, ball position y is equal to 350 pixels. So what we are saying is when the game starts, this coordinate here is 120 by 350. That's what you're saying. Now, when the game starts, where should the ball move? In what direction should it move? So we want it to move up. So we'll say direction x is equal to -1. Ball direction y is equal to -2. So what we're saying essentially is whatever the current coordinates are, subtract 1 from x and 2 from y, and whatever direction the next, that's your next position. So as we start drawing at 0 left corner, and then the coordinates increase as we go further down. So if we subtract these numbers, the ball is going to move up, right? So that's what we are telling. And then what should be the dimension of the ball? So we'll say ball width is, we'll say it's a 20 pixel wide, and ball height is also 20 pixel high, right? I just left the white spaces here, you can delete them. So this is what we're saying, this is the initial condition for our ball. Okay, now we need to draw the ball. So we'll just put the method of drawing the ball here itself, so that the ball knows how to draw itself on the screen. So we'll say void draw, and then to draw we need the colorful pen, which is a graphics object, right? So we'll say graphics, give us the color pen, and the ball knows how to draw itself. But before we do that, we had this initialize method, but we want our ball to be initialized when the construction of this object happens. So we are missing a constructor. So we'll say public ball constructor, and then when anyone calls it, the only thing it does is it just initializes the ball. Okay, now let's start with the reset position. So now we are writing the logic on how the ball should draw itself. So we're telling ball, this is how you should draw yourself. Uh, so we say take the graphics color pen, and then set the color to yellow, because our ball is of yellow color, right? And then what is the shape of our ball? It is not rectangle. We have been drawing rectangle so far, but the shape of our ball is oval shape. So we'll say fill oval. Now, at what position? Start filling. Start filling at the ball position X, comma ball position Y. And how wide should it be? It should be ball width wide, and how high should it be? Ball height high. This is what will draw the ball on the screen. Now be careful that you use ball position X and Y and not ball direction X and Y. That will just throw the ball off the charts. All right, so now when we know how to draw the ball, let's draw the ball on the game screen. So for that, we need an object of type ball.
I'm getting an error when you say public ball initialize.
Okay.
It's saying that invalid method declaration, return type required.
You have void, right? Public void.
Yeah.
Do you want to share the screen? That's very interesting.
Sure. So like right there.
All right. So why is it public ball? Move your cursor. There's okay. Return type required. Oh, because your constructor name does not match the class name. Class name is lowercase ball. So
should be a
lower right
lowercase b.
Yeah, but then it's better to change it to lowercase b. At least that will solve the problem. As of now, there it is. The problem should go away. What did it say now? Is never used. That's fine. We'll use it. But then do one thing. Go to the file which is named ball. Right click on it and do a refactor. Rename. Change it to uppercase. Yeah, because Java class name should be uppercase. What does it say? Yeah, click on do refactor.
Do refactor. Okay.
There it is. So it just changed everything for you, right?
Okay.
All right. So let's get back to the business. All right. So once we have the initialize, use those numbers. You can play with those numbers, but just in the spirit of we all being on the same page, let's stick with these exact numbers. Makes it easy to debug in case we have some problems. And then write down this implementation for draw. This is essentially the logic of how the ball will draw itself given a graphics pen. All right. So
I have a weird error.
yes.
For my frame, I have the left border and the top border, but the right border doesn't show up. I think it's hidden under something.
Do you have these numbers?
Yeah, I have everything the same. I don't know why.
Can,
I tried
can you share the
stretching the
screen?
tab too, but it just wasn't working.
Do you want to share the screen?
Yeah. Okay, so if I run this, yeah, so it shows the yellow here and then the yellow here and then the zero, but it doesn't show me the right one for some reason.
Oh, that is very interesting. So, what is different? Go to the other class, which is the Big Breaker game class. 700 by 600. That looks like right. Okay, come back to the gameplay. See where the fill rectangle is. Um, the first one after the black color background, line number 12.
Yeah.
Instead of that one, make it margin. See if that fixes, and then replace all the tools with margin as well. Then see if that makes any change.
No, it's so weird.
Move your game around. Sometimes it kind of redraws. Okay, that is kind of
Like
fixed, right?
I thought I could try and pull the tab, but I don't know.
No, no, we kind of disabled that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So okay, close it. Let's spend like 2 minutes on it, and then maybe it'll come back. So 30.
Actually, I too have the same problem. Coding along with you guys, and I too have the same problem. In
Is
limited,
it because of Windows? I guess.
Maybe
yeah.
if everyone else is on Mac and it works, it might be that.
Okay, so let's keep that as an action item that will kind of fix the game uh, to work on Windows as well, like the way it works on Mac. But as of now, let's assume that the border is there.
Yeah. Also, I have one other
Windows Command.
question.
Yes.
So the four like inputs that you can have. So the first one is like the place of where it is, right? Like for fill a rectangle, it's
Yeah.
where it is on the x-axis, and then the second one is y-axis, and then it's just the width and then the height, right? That's all it is.
Correct. Yes, that's all it
Okay.
is.
Okay.
All right. So let's resume. Okay. So I hope you all have the ball class ready. Now it's time to use it. So for that, let's create an instance of.
Can you
Let's
go
create a
back
ball.
to the ball class for 1 second? I'm sorry, I didn't
Yes.
copy that last line down.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, you're good.
All right, so let's come back to the gameplay class, and then let's create a ball. So we'll say ball. That's it. As simple as that. This is ball, right? And we have that. So see, we have not. We have just declared it. We have not initialized it. So similar to how in the ball we have this method initialize, which sets everything to default. Let's do the same for the gameplay, right? So right after the constructor and above the paint, let's say we'll call it same initialize, but this time we can make it private because no one else is going to call it. We'll say private void initialize. Why are we doing that is because if the user restarts the game, we don't want to go and recreate everything. We'll just reset everything to the same value. So see, we have this Boolean variable play, which says whether the game is running or not. So when we're initializing the game, obviously the game is not running. So we'll say play is equal to false. The game is not running when we are here. What should be the score? Our score should be 0. Okay. What delay do you want to give? How often should the screen be repainted? So we say, okay, every 8 milliseconds or whatever that is. And then we'll say ball, go and reset your position whatever that means. Now in a ball class, we have defined what it means. It means ball will put itself at that location. It will set itself to go in that direction, and so on and so forth, right? So we do that. Now again, we have used the ball object, but we have not initialized it. So the initialization part, we'll do that in the constructor.
What's the point of the delay?
The point of the delay is, so every time we have this timer, every time this timer expires, the whole screen is redrawn. Java goes and redraws everything. So let's say, so how often should that redrawing should happen is after every 8 milliseconds is what we're saying.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
let's
it's like
say
the
if you
refresh
are
rate kind of.
kind of refresh it, you're right.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so now we need to initialize the object. So we'll create the ball object here. Ball is equal to new project. So we are saying create a ball when the game starts, and once the ball has been created, initialize it. And so when we start the game, it sets those things, create a new ball, and then initializes everything. The game is stopped, score is 0, delay is 8, whatever that is, and then it initializes the ball. So now we have our ball object functional. So let's go and draw the ball on the screen. How do we draw it? It's very simple. In fact, we say ball dot go and draw it yourself, and take this color pen and go and draw yourself. That's it. This should draw the ball. Run the program and make sure that that's happening. There it is. All right, and see how the score is now coming from a variable rather than a string 0. So we have made some progress. Now what is missing? Third thing we'll do is we'll put a slider, right? So similar to the ball object, let's create a slider object. So go to your package and then create a class and call it slider, right? Similar to this ball, a slider has a position somewhere on the screen. A little more. Okay. So the slider is mostly logged at the bottom, right? It can't move everywhere, just left to right at the bottom. So we'll say public integer. We'll call it slider x, which is the x position of slider. Public integer slider y, the xy coordinates of it. How wide should the slider be? So public integer slider width, public integer slider height. Okay. And now these need to be initialized. So we'll say public void initialize. Okay, so when the game starts, where should our slider be? So we'll say our slider should be x coordinate should be 310, and then what should be the y coordinate? So we'll say whatever is the our game's frame width or sorry height. From there, put the slider 50 pixels above. So what we're saying is, whatever is this height of the whole screen, from bottom, wherever the 50 pixel is, that's where the slider y coordinate should be. So essentially, we're defining that. So that's 310 by whatever height minus 50 pixels. All right. So how high should, what is the, how high this rectangle should be? So we'll keep it narrow. So we'll say slider height is 8 pixels. And then how wide the slider should be? Slider width is, we'll say 100 pixels sounds like right. 100 pixels. So that's our initialization. Now, who initializes this? Well, it's public. Someone else can do that too. But in this case, we'll let the constructor do initialization as well. So we'll say public slider. Let's see a constructor, and then we'll say initialize my slider. So set the initial values to every variable there. Once we have the slider, next is we need to tell slider how to draw itself. So similar to the ball, we'll have a method called public void draw. And then for drawing, we need the color pen. So we'll say graphics G, that's our color pen. There it is. Now, what should we draw? It's very simple to draw the slider actually. We'll say, first we'll set the color of the color pen. We'll say the color is green, dot green, and then slider is a rectangle. So we'll say fill rectangle starting at slider X, slider Y, and it should be of slider width and slider height. So that area on the screen, just make it green. You guys good so far?
I have an error under public void draw graphics G. It says that I had the same problem with the ball one, but then I just imported the java.awt and I did the
Yeah.
same thing here, but it didn't work for some reason. It says missing
Yeah,
method
that,
body or declare abstract.
do you want to share a screen?
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, at least in IntelliJ, what you should do is instead of writing the whole thing yourself, just use that recommendation they have. That way, it imports things for you. Okay, so what? Oh, you have a semicolon at end of line 22.
Wow, okay, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. It kind of was a tiny one. So yeah. All right. So that fixed the problem there. So we all are good so far. Everyone wrote down the draw method. Let's move on to the next step. Now, when we know how to draw the slider, let's draw it on the screen. So go back to your gameplay class, and then after drawing the ball, we're going to say draw slider. So how do we draw the slider? But we don't have a slider object yet. So similar to the ball object, we'll go up in the declarations where we had the ball class object declaration. We'll say slider. We'll call it slider. That's it. So we are declaring, we're not initializing yet, right? So we have it that way. See, in the constructor, we have initialize the ball object. So similar to that, we're going to say slider is equal to new slider. Now we initialize the slider object, so which means from this point on, we can use this object. So in our initialization, we say slider dot initialize my slider to start somewhere. And finally, we come down, and after the ball is drawn, we say slider dot draw. Then pass the same color pen to it. If you run this, there it is. The slider is here, right? Now, okay, we have three components, but you press, arrow keys right and left. It doesn't do anything. So next step we should implement is when we hit the right left, at least our slider should move right to left. Okay, that's what we're going to do. And to do that, we'll implement. We should know that a key has been pressed. So we have a method here which says key pressed. You all must have it. So that's where Java is going to tell us what key has been pressed. Now, in this game, we only use right and left key. So we don't care about other key presses. So when the key is pressed, we'll first check if key dot get key code. Is that key code equal to just start typing vk underscore right. So has the user pressed the right key? If the user has pressed the right key, then do what? So our game starts frozen. It kind of starts frozen like such, and we need to start the game the moment user presses a right key or a left key. So first thing we'll do, we'll set flag to true. Okay, the user does that. Start the game, and what to do. So when the user presses the right key, the slider should move right. Now, how do we move the slider right? So let the slider know how to move itself right. So in the slider, go to your slider class, and let's implement the mechanism on how the slider will move right. We'll say public void move right. So how will it move right? So if the user has already gone to the rightmost, which is if you're hitting the right wall, then there's no place to move. So we'll say slider, we'll first check, have we hit the wall yet? If the slider is greater than or equal to, in what area are we playing? We're playing in the area of where the gameplay dot width is. So we can't go beyond that width minus width of the slider. Oh, right. So what I mean is now slider position is this left top corner. So how do we know we have hit the wall to our right? Is when this position, the X position is right here. Just a width slider width away. Right. So that's what we're saying is go all the way to the end, but slider width away. And if that is the case, then what do we do when we hit the left border? We just stay there. So we'll say, don't move the slider is equal to, copy paste that. Bang, we just stay there. We don't go anywhere. But if that's not the case, then what should we do? So if that's not the case, then move the slider to the right by 20 pixels. Right. So why plus 20 is because the top corner is to 0, 0, and as we move to the right, we add the distance. So when we want to move this, we are adding 20 pixels at a time. If you want to move left, then we subtract 20 pixels, so it'll move on the other direction, right? So that's it. It is as simple as that. Now let's see if that works actually or not. So go to gameplay, and then we say when the user has pressed the right key, then for my slider dot move right, move my slider to right. That's it. We all are here so far.
Yeah.
Let's run the program real quick. And as we have just implemented the right movement, if you press the left key, nothing happens. But when you press the right key, well, nothing happens either. So what's going on? What's going on is,
Can I say the code really quick again?
yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. So you have the code for the slider move right, correct?
Yeah, I have that.
Okay. Okay, so our slider is not moving. So we'll come and fix it, but it'll move. Now, before we do that, let's also take this opportunity to write how to move the slider left. Left. And then similar to that, when do we know the slider is all the way to the left? Is um, is when this corner here is hitting the left boundary. So we'll say when the slider x is less than uh, we can actually do a gameplay dot margin, but that will be too close. So what we can do instead is we'll just put a number called 10 pixels. Pixels are very tiny. It's not noticeable. So at least we'll not override the boundary. The yellow boundary won't be. It will be still be visible. And then if that's the case, if I hit all the way to the end of the screen, then what do? We just stay there. We just stay at that. Or maybe we can just do a gameplay dot. We stay at the margin right there. That's fine. We should copy that, and instead of 10, just paste that there. It'll just make it more exact. Why not, right? So if that's not the case, then we move the slider left. So we'll say slider our x, whatever the coordinate of x is, minus 20 from it. So move the slider 20 pixels to the left. Right? You guys fine here?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. So let's go back to the gameplay, and then similar to how we detect the right key press, let's check for if the left key was pressed, e dot key code is equal to key event, and see there's left. So this will tell us when left key is pressed, this if statement will be true. What do we do when left key is pressed? Well, first of all, start the game if it is not already running, and then move the slider to move left, move it left direction. So very identical to the right. Once we have that logic in, the code will not work. Is because there's nothing wrong. The what is happening is when the screen is drawn, it should be refreshed every time something has changed, and we have not put that logic together yet. So let's do that real quick. So remember we had a timer, and then we haven't used it so far. So we come back to the constructor, and then in the constructor we'll say, well, we first need to initialize everything, and then we'll start the timer. So we'll say timer is equal to new timer, right? Now it takes two parameters. what should be the delay? How often should this timer fire? So we'll say it should fire 8 milliseconds, or whatever the delay 8 is, refresh rate. And then who should be informed about when the timer expires? So we'll say this why. So look at the type. It is actional listener. And this class actually implements the action listener. So there should be there's action performed. This method will get called when the timer expires every time. Okay, so we come back to our constructor, and then now we have a timer, and now let's start the timer. There it is. So now our timer is running. It will expire every so often, and then every time it expires, it will call that method. Now, what should we do when that method is called? Um, so as this method gets called every time timer expires, we again start the timer here. We say, okay, come back here after time. So the timer will keep calling this again and again. Also, if the game has not started yet, then do nothing. But if the game has started, um, then what do you do? Well, immaterial of it, let's redraw, repaint. We are saying every time timer expires, go and call this method, right? And this method will draw the slider. So if you have moved the slider, it is going to draw the slider at the new place. So now let's run the program. There it is. Slider is moving. See how it kind of reaches end and then back. There as well.
Can I see the code again real quick?
For the action performed.
Yeah, for the action performed.
Okay.
When I run it, I get a ton of errors.
It happens. Very common in Java. They are very verbose about errors. Do you want to share the screen?
Yeah. I think it happened. So when we first finished writing the slider code, I couldn't make the ball like new ball. I couldn't do that for the slider. That makes sense.
So null pointer exception means your object is not initialized yet. So
Yeah, that's what it wasn't letting me. So I would do slider equals new slider. It just would not.
because your S is lowercase. Well,
No, I checked that. It's right there.
no, the new and after that the class name should be uppercase S. So delete that S after new and replace that uppercase.
Okay, that's it, right? And then
Yeah.
okay.
That should fix it. Okay.
I just can't move anything yet. I think I'm gonna miss.
So you need the timer implementation. Okay. So I'll share my screen.
I did the timer delay actually.
So in here, do you have this code in the action performed?
Yeah, I have that too.
Do you have that in the constructor? Those two lines
In gameplay, timer.
in the constructor.
Oh, I
Okay.
remember that start.
Yeah.
Also, what is the key code for A and D?
A and D, that's a good question. I'm not sure what the key code is, but I think there should be some.
Yeah, I tried just
code,
typing A and D, it just didn't work.
this didn't work?
Oh, I didn't try that. I just put D.
Okay, give it a try. I've not tried it myself. Maybe that may not work, but I'm guessing because it's an integer type return, so it must be returning like an ASCII character, a Unicode key type, right? So it's like, yeah. So handle both. This is equal to A, or E dot get key code equal to A. But I'm not sure if this will work or not. We'll have to kind of search about it a little bit. But handle both. If that works, then handle both cases just in case if it treats the key different, lower versus upper.
Hmm.
How, how about like VK underscore A or T?
Is there something like such?
Yeah, you can just VK underscore A, VK underscore T.
There it is. It makes life easy.
VK
Yeah, there
underscore.
it is. Yeah.
VK underscore what?
A or
A.
whatever the
So do a key event
Yeah,
dot
I'm trying that now.
vk underscore uppercase A. Yeah, it's kind of 41. So even the double equal to lowercase a would have been fine because that's like the ASCII value for A. Okay,
Yeah, it does work.
nice. So yeah, you can assign different keys to play the game, A and D. Oh, all right. So now we have that. No, now let's run that. Does the ball move at all? I didn't. I think the ball doesn't move. Ball doesn't move yet, right? So now we need to move the ball. Um,
Can you go back to the action performed part?
yes, right there.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So every time the timer expires, we should move the ball. So which means we should update the XY coordinate and go and draw the ball at that coordinate. How do we update the XY coordinate? We'll see what direction the ball is moving, and then we'll just add and subtract those directions from our current XY coordinates. That will give us the new XY coordinate, right? So there's some logic behind it. So let's go and implement that in the ball class itself. So we'll create a method here. We'll say public void move. That's as simple as that. We'll just say data move. So this method will have all the logic required to move the ball. So as we said, we'll first update the ball's x and y positions. So what's the x position? X position is whatever the current position is to that added direction, x direction, wherever the ball is moving in. There. What is the y direction? To ball direction y. I should be position. We have that. Now the ball will move that way, but then ball cannot go beyond the boundaries. So we'll check if the ball has crossed the left border first. So if it is getting very close to the left border, what should happen? The ball's direction should change, which means whatever its direction is, just flip the direction. So we'll check for left border collision. And how is that? So if the ball's current position is less than 0, which means it has kind of hit the corner, then direction. Direction of the ball should be equal to minus whatever the current direction is. So ball's direction just inverts. Similarly, when the ball hits the upper border, what should happen? Now, at the top border, there's x is 0 throughout. It's only, is that true? Y is 0. Yes. So y is 0. So when the ball hits the top wall, then the y direction will just switch. So we'll say if the ball position y is less than 0, then ball position y equal to minus ball position y, right? So that will flip the direction in the y coordinate. So this is the top.
Wait, wouldn't the
Similarly,
top be the frame height?
no, the bottom is actually frame height
Oh,
because
the
at the top
bottom
it starts at 0, 0.
Okay, okay. Hmm.
Yeah, we always start the top left corner is 0, 0 coordinate.
Okay.
So now we'll check for, so we did left, we did top, we now need to check the right. So in the right again, if the ball X is beyond certain, so we'll say ball position X is greater than what? So whatever our gameplay window is, so whatever that width is, from there, minus the ball width. Because we don't because in the game the coordinate the ball x and y is this corner here, and we don't want the ball to go completely inside of the wall. We need to bounce it back when it touches this front here. So we need to have that width of ball into picture. So that's where that comes in. When that happens, then what do? Switch the direction again. So whatever direction ball is going, make that switch. We'll have this. All right, so let's go back to our gameplay. And here we say when the timer expires, move the ball. Let's run this. That's there it is. The ball starts moving. Oh, see, it is stuck on the top. What happened? So we did something wrong about.
Yeah, you give like ball position y equal to minus of ball direction of x.
Yes, so we instead of direction, we updated position. So we just need to change the direction, not set the position. All right, so see, these are like tiny mistakes. Thanks, PK, that is a good catch. Essentially, when you run this, there it is, now it should bounce. But it didn't bounce off the slider. Well, why did it not bounce? It's because we don't have the logic of bouncing from the slider. So next is, that's what we should do, is let's put the logic of when should the ball bounce the slider. So the ball should bounce the slider when, just imagine this ball being a rectangle. So when that rectangle is touching this rectangle, which is a slider, then it should be considered as a collision between the two. So we need to find if these two rectangles collide or not, right? So let's find that out. So we say if there is a mechanism in Java which lets you find out if two rectangles are touching each other or not. So to do that, we need a rectangle object. Now let's go to ball and we'll create a method. We'll call it public returns a rectangle object. And then we'll say get rectangle. Give me the rectangle which is surrounding the ball, like a imaginary, not transparent rectangle in a way. So what this returns is a new rectangle of what dimension? Whatever the dimension ball is. So ball position x, ball position y, the width of the ball, and then ball height. This will give us a if you would replace the ball with a rectangle, this would be that rectangle, right? So you have it. When you have that, let's go to slider and let's create a method here as well. Same. We'll say public. We'll call it rectangle with rectangle. What should it return? It should return the same rectangle, which is equivalent of the slider. So we'll say return new rectangle, slider wherever x, sliders whatever position y, and then sliders width, sliders height. Right? So we have the rectangle which would enclose the slider, and now we're going to see if this rectangle is colliding with the ball rectangle. If it is, then it means there's a collision. And what happens when a collision happens? There should be a switch in direction, right? So
Do we
ball
need a
direction.
rectangle for the ball too?
Come again.
Do we need a rectangle for the ball too?
We just need an empty rectangle just so that we can use that to find if a collision happened or not.
Mm-hmm. So can I see that code if there is one?
So for getting the rectangle of the ball is right there. So this will just give us a rectangle which is of the same size of ball. You have it?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. So now when we have these rectangles, just to find out collision happened or not. So let's see if the ball dot get rectangle dot intersects. So this is going to tell us whether two rectangles are intersecting or not. So it says, okay, the rectangle of the ball is intersecting with what? So it is, we are checking if this is intersecting with the slider dot get rectangle. If that is true, if they are intersecting, then we need to switch the, which means the ball has come all the way to the slider and it has hit it. So now the y direction should change, right? So ball direction y is equal to, and how should it change? It should just become negative. Just flip the direction, ball direction y. There it is. So now just this essentially 1-2 line code change here is going to give some life to the game. There it is. So the ball has started moving and bounce. See that? It's happening. There it is. So the ball fell off the.
It's like weird. It just the ball doesn't go in a weird. It just goes up and down. It doesn't go to the right or left.
You can put that logic. So see, the place where you would change all that would be in these places where we detect collision. So like the detection of collision when it hits the slider or when it hits the wall, you can add a spin to the ball. You can add so many other things to the ball. So we kept it very simple.
Yeah,
But
but
you
mine
can.
goes up and down from the beginning.
Oh, really?
I think I might
That
have.
might be because you might have something not right in this method, the move method of the ball. So do you want to share your screen?
Yeah, I don't see anything different. Oh, I think I'm sharing.
Okay. So can you run the game and show me what's happening?
Yeah, it's running. So it just goes up and down from the first position. It collides properly, but it just goes up and down.
Oh, it's because Go to your gameplay. Can you run the game again and show the slider, like where the
Yeah, so if I click A,
oh
so
yeah. So okay, now in the ball class, go to the initialize method. Okay.
I think I spelled it wrong.
Okay. That's not the problem.
Yeah.
Okay, go back to the big baker. Oh, sorry, gameplay. What is going on? You might have missed something somewhere. Move. Go to move again.
Move.
Oh, you're doing the direction x is equal. You're just adding the directions. You should do position x is equal to direction y plus. Yeah. So instead of that make it position and yeah. Save it and run it.
Where'd it go? Oh,
So you don't have the collision part, right?
it comes back. It just that, like, I don't know.
So go to ball class and then to the left border. So you have there's the equal to sign there. Remove that less than equal to. Just make it strictly. That should not matter actually.
Yeah, I had it. If it like hits it perfectly, I wanted it to come back anyways.
There's some debugging needed for this. Anyhow, I think it needs some debugging. I'll share the code so you can use that to compare later
Okay.
and find out. It must be something off. It'll just take too much time to find that out.
Mm-hmm.
So in the spirit of okay, but well, we have come to the end of time. So try to debug your program. Essentially, do you all want to? I'll stop recording first.